The fourth part in ratios, it says find the total amount. To solve any ratio problem, simply apply the 5-step process. For example, the total amount was divided into the ratio 3:7. So we don't know what the total amount is. The larger part received $850. Find the total amount. Now, remember we said a prior step, whenever you are dealing with ratios, a prior step is to find the total parts. So before you apply the 5-step process, find the total parts. Total the part. Add up the parts and find the total. Even though they want you to separate a total or they want you to find the total, find the total parts. You simply add the parts, and the parts are in this one 3 and 7. So you say 3 plus 7 will give you 10. Okay, so you can use that as a rule. Now we're going to apply the 5-step process. The first step is to have a labeling ratio. And for quantity and parts, when you're separating quantity into parts or you're finding total ratio, the total parts or the total quantity, your labeling is quantity and parts. Quantity, parts. Now your next ratio now must have 2 numbers. Next ratio must have 2 numbers. When you come here in the question, you are seeing that they tell us the larger part received 850. We do not have the total quantity, but there's a clue. It says the larger part. Can anybody tell me which part is the larger part? Now we need a ratio with 2 numbers. And it is very important that we do not go contrary to the labeling. The labeling is very, very important. It's like the foundation, the guide. So we cannot go contrary to the labeling. Also, we have to utilize the numbers that are there. We cannot introduce any new number. We have a 3, a 7, and an 850. Some of the numbers are parts, and some of them are quantity. And we're going to use our guide to make a ratio with 2 numbers. And as you correctly said, it's 850 and 7. Why? Because it said the larger part. The larger part is 7, received 850. The larger part received 850. The larger part received 850. 850 is a quantity. 850 to the larger part. Simple as that. So here is our ratio with 2 numbers. We need another ratio, a third ratio with a letter and a number. X to 3. Let us reflect on that. Because what are we trying to find? What is the purpose of the question? We're trying to find the total amount. We're trying to find the total quantity. Oh, by the way, that's another labeling you can use. Instead of saying quantity, you can use amount and parts. So you don't have to be quantity. It could be amount and parts. Now, remember I said don't introduce any new number, but a very important number was created. What number am I referring to? 10. A very important number was created, which is 10. What is 10? 10 is what? 10 is what are we trying to find? Exactly. Can we not make a ratio with a letter and a number? Exactly. Here you have it. Okay. 10, 7 on the parts, 8x 850 on the quantity, and they are related to each other. So now alignment has happened. Our fifth step, always before you go to the cross multiply and divide, always reflect to make sure that parts on the parts and quantity on the quantity. Cross multiply and divide. By what number do we have to divide? X is equal to division sign up. What number comes under there? These are the numbers we are using. These are the numbers we are using to cross multiply and divide. These are the numbers we are using to cross multiply and divide. Exactly. Divide by 7. Away from X, exactly. So we must divide by 7. We must divide by 7. We have to divide by the number diagonally away from X, which is 7. And remember, these four setup there, that's what we have to use to cross. We cannot go back up again. That setup we have to use to cross multiply and divide. Okay, that is the purpose for that. So therefore now is, as you correctly said, 850 times 10 or 10 times 850. Multiplication is commutative, the order does not matter. And what you're going to have, you're going to have 1,500 divided by 7. And that's how much. Can somebody please tell me? Well, the total pass, we use these 3 for the total pass because they must give you a ratio. They must give you a ratio. They must give you a ratio. 3 to 7, 2 to 5. And you use that now to find the total parts. So it's not a trick. They must give you the ratio. So use the ratio, use the parts in the ratio to find the total parts. And you always relate the total parts to the total quantity. So if you don't have the total quantity, you call it X. If you have the total quantity, you relate it to each other, just like how we had there. We had the total quantity, so you relate the total parts to the total quantity. But if you don't have the total quantity, you relate the total parts to X, and then you apply here, as we say, you cross multiply and divide. So you have quantity to parts, 850 to 7, because they told us now that the larger part received 850, so we can relate 850 to 7 and make a ratio with that. And that will give us our ratio with 2 numbers. And we don't have the total quantity, but we have the total parts, so we can make a ratio with that, a letter and a number. And then we use that now to cross multiply and divide. We always divide by the number diagonally away from the letter. So we have to divide by 7. So 850 times 10 divided by 7. And that's 8,500 divided by 7. And we get 1214.28.